वेलकम टू PWOLI। स्वागत है आप सभी लोगों का हमारे आज के इस सेशन में और आपकी संभव सीरीज में। आप सभी लोगों को पता है कि हम अपनी संभव सीरीज में मॉडर्न हिस्ट्री को स्पेक्ट्रम के थ्रू कवर कर रहे हैं और स्पेक्ट्रम के थ्रू जब हम अपनी इस मॉडर्न हिस्ट्री को कवर कर रहे हैं तो हम यूनिट नंबर 4 में आ चुके हैं और यूनिट नंबर 4 में चैप्टर नंबर 8 तक हमने लास्ट सेशन में कवर कर लिया था। तो यूनिट 4 में दिस इज चैप्टर नंबर 9 और यूनिट 4 में जो चैप्टर नंबर 9 हम यहाँ पर कवर कर रहे हैं दैट इज अबाउट सोशियो रिलीजियस रिफॉर्म मूवमेंट। तो एक बात तो समझ में आ गई कि हम स्पेक्ट्रम के थ्रू अपना जो मॉडर्न हिस्ट्री का पार्ट है उसे कवर कर रहे हैं, दैट इज चैप्टर नंबर 9 और ये चैप्टर नंबर 9 विल लाई इन यूनिट 4। सो चैप्टर 9 इन यूनिट 4 और जो टॉपिक है दैट इज सोशियो रिलीजियस रिफॉर्म मूवमेंट। अब सोशियो रिलीजियस रिफॉर्म मूवमेंट ये जो एक टॉपिक है इसका जो एकदम स्पेसिफिक टॉपिक है जो आपको देखने को मिलता है स्पेक्ट्रम में, दैट विल बी अ जनरल सर्वे ऑफ सोशियो रिलीजियस रिफॉर्म मूवमेंट एंड दैट इज द स्पेसिफिक टॉपिक या सोशियो कल्चरल रिफॉर्म मूवमेंट। अ जनरल सर्वे ऑफ socio-cultural reform movement. Socio-cultural reform movement. A general survey of socio-cultural reform movement. So this is the topic that we are going to cover. लास्ट सेशन में हमने इसका एक फंडामेंटल बैकग्राउंड कवर किया था एंड वी नीड टू टेक अ रिविजन ऑफ दैट फंडामेंटल बैकग्राउंड सो दैट वी कुड गेट अ प्रॉपर कनेक्टिविटी अबाउट दिस चैप्टर। तो अगर आप उस फंडामेंटल बैकग्राउंड को देखो तो मैंने आपको बताया था कि क्या अप्रोच रहेगा हमारा इस टॉपिक में। And when we were discussing approach, I just told you that I will divide this topic in 4 categories. But before dividing that in 4 categories, I will first of all classify it in a way that सबसे पहले हम इसका फंडामेंटल कवर करेंगे। फंडामेंटल को कवर करने के बाद इस टॉपिक को हम 4 हिस्सों में डिवाइड करेंगे: हिंदू रिफॉर्म मूवमेंट, मुस्लिम रिफॉर्म मूवमेंट, पारसी रिफॉर्म मूवमेंट एंड सिख रिफॉर्म मूवमेंट। When I was exploring or dividing this topic, I just specifically told you that the most of the part in this topic will be captured by the Hindu reform movement, and reason was very obvious. Hindu is the majority population of India. Most of the evils you will find in the Hindu religion and the cultural practices and the, I will say, society. So since evil practices will be more because of the larger population, more efforts must have been done to rectify those problems. So more evils, more efforts. That's why it will take larger portion of your chapter. I just for the purpose of your mind making, I just told you that 70% part of this topic will lie in Hindu reform movement, and later on when you will get a classification, you'll get a classification. So 20% part will lie in Muslim reform movement and rest 10% will be divided between the Parsi and the Sikh reform movement. 5% will get into the Parsi reform movement and 5% will get into the Sikh reform movement. Since we are going to cover most of the topic in the subtitle of Hindu reform movement, I need to classify that further in the various regions. So we know there are 3 presidencies: Bengal, Bombay and Madras. So Bengal presidency will cover Bombay presidency. We need to cover Madras presidency. But when we are exploring socio-cultural reform movement, we'll find a few initiatives are also there in Kerala. So apart from dividing it as Madras presidency, I'm also including Kerala in it. So I'm just specifying it as South India. So just it will include Madras, it will also include Kerala. And apart from that, you'll find all India level. In all India level, we'll take or explore a few initiatives like Theosophical Society, Arya Samaj and Ramakrishna movement that was not limited to a certain geography, rather it was also spread throughout the various regions of the India. So it will be some sort of all India initiative. So this will be the division: Bombay, Bengal, Madras की जगह पे South India and then all India level. And this will be the sequence. When we were discussing about the fundamentals, I told you that I will be discussing 5 elements: reason, ideological base, types, and how can it be called as Indian Renaissance, and the 5th point must be problems in 19th century. So I just told you in the last session the reasons. I told you the reasons, I told you the fundamental ideological basis, and among that ideological basis, I explained the rationalism, humanism, religious universalism, and secularism. And after that, we get to know about the division or the types, and in types we understood about the reformist and the revivalist. I also explored the how they are different to each other, like reformists used to tackle the forward-looking character, while revivalists were in the backward-looking character, and that is the basic difference between the both. Then we explored the reason, how can we call it as Indian Renaissance. So elements were somehow similar as it was in the Renaissance period of Europe, that was 14th to 16th century, and the India in 19th century after 1800. Then we explored the various problems, those were in various segments of the society, like problems associated with women, problems in religion, problems associated with caste, and problems in education. So after exploring all these elements, fundamental part is over. So fundamental part was explored in chapter number 8. Now we will be moving towards the chapter number 9, and that will cover various reform initiatives, and various reform initiatives will be covered in the same segment or the same chronology that I explored in the initial part of this session. So reformist and revivalist, this division has already been made. Now we are exploring this topic, and when we are exploring this topic, the main topic is Socio-Religious Reform Movement, and we are going to use an abbreviation for it, and that is SRRM. So in Socio-Religious Reform Movement, we are covering Hindu Reform Movements. In Hindu Reform Movement, we are covering the region of Bengal. In the region of Bengal, we are pointing out the very first topic, and that is Raja Ram Mohan Roy, or the Brahmo Samaj. And when we are understanding Raja Ram Mohan Roy, we can also use an abbreviation, that is RRR. Of course, you may recall a movie with the same title, RRR. So RRR is considered as father of Indian Renaissance, maker of modern India. And what can be the possible reason? To explore the possible reasons, you need to cover the topic. When you will understand more and more about Raja Ram Mohan Roy, it will be very easy for you to understand why he is considered as the father of Indian Renaissance or the maker of modern India. Reasons are very obvious and will be explored in the upcoming part of session. He was a versatile genius. Versatile genius simply means he had knowledge or information of various fields. He had knowledge of dozens of languages. You can understand today we are living in an era of technology. And if I ask you, is there anyone in this class who knows any European language, or let's be little more wider in our perspective, any non-Indian language, not just European language, because we are very much fond of understanding the European languages like Spanish, French, Portuguese, any language, but you may know about the Chinese or the Japanese, okay? So any language, if you know, that is non-Indian, you can mention in the comment box, yes sir, I know this non-Indian language. Secondly, I may ask you some other question. Do you know any other language apart from Hindi or English? If you are living in India, you know, I'm much concentrated towards, do you know any language that is relating to our northeastern part of India? Assamese, Manipuri, or southern language? Kannada, Telugu, Malayalam, Tamil, these languages? Do you know? While we all know that learning languages is not that much hard today. You have a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of applications, and these YouTube videos and applications can easily, these YouTube videos and application can easily give you an idea, about what? How can you learn these languages? It will be much easier or not? Still, you may have found that many of us do not know a lot of languages. Those are non-Indian or apart from your regional language. At that point of time, it was a big deal when Raja Ram Mohan Roy was aware about a lot of languages like Sanskrit, Arabic, Hebrew, Latin, Persian, French, English, and Greek. So a few classical language, like a few languages are very classical language. It's Greek and Latin. Greek and Latin are very ancient languages. So he was aware of a few very ancient languages like Greek, Latin, Persian, Hebrew, and Sanskrit. So Sanskrit, Arabic, Hebrew, Persian, Latin, Greek, these are all very ancient languages. Parallelly, French and English you can consider, a few more other languages as well. So he was aware of a few ancient languages. And what were those ancient languages? I just recalled you, Sanskrit is an Indian ancient language, Greek and Latin, it's very obvious. Apart from that, Persian, Arabic, and Hebrew, and then English and French. So what is the advantage of knowing ancient languages? So advantage is very simple. All the pristine religious text has been written in these ancient languages, whether it is Sanskrit or Hebrew or Latin or Persian or French or Greek, whatever it is. If he is aware of these languages, he can read all these religious texts in their original connotation. He need not to be dependent on some sort of commentary where can be different interpretation by some different person. This dependency is not there, and it will give him a clear and original understanding of any religious text. And that is the fundamental advantage of knowing ancient languages that was very much well known to whom? Raja Ram Mohan Roy. And these ancient languages are Sanskrit, Arabic, Hebrew, Latin, Persian, Greek, and apart from that, French and English as well. He was a reformist who believed in rational thinking, and his rational thinking compelled him to be a follower of scientific approach. You may wonder what it means to be a follower of scientific approach. It simply means you will acknowledge only those things that can be proven empirically. Now you may ask, what do I mean when I say empirically? Empirically simply means something that can be proven scientifically, something that is data based, something that is evidence based, and that is empirical. He always believed in human dignity and social equality. Since it is very obvious that he was a humanist, if he is a humanist, he will believe in human dignity and social equality. He always promoted rationalism and accepted that all the religions are one, and the fundamental oneness among all the religions. And he always advocated that we must practice all the good elements of other religions. Now, that is the fundamental premise about Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Apart from this fundamental premise, you need to focus on a few things. What is this? It is simply, if you wish to remember just two things about Raja Ram Mohan Roy, what can it be? Just two things, if I say. The first one must be monotheism, and the second one, his abolition of sati, his efforts to abolish sati. So we are well known about his effort to abolish sati, but that was not the only initiative taken by him. So the two things that you need to keep in your mind, if I'm just coming to you in the early morning, 5 o'clock, I'm just slapping you and asking you, what do you know about Raja Ram Mohan Roy? And you just wanted to speak a few words, you will just say, sir, monotheism and abolition of sati. Just two things you must remember in your mind. If you're going to die and someone comes and says, these must be your last words, please tell me a few things about Raja Ram Mohan Roy. And you know, I'm going to die, I don't have a lot to speak. What will you speak? Monotheism and abolition of sati. So these are two very specific contributions of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. And the abolition of sati was, it is having a fundamental background about something that I will explain you in the coming part of this session. Now I need to speak a bit about his initiatives. When I'm going to talk about his initiatives, how do we need to explore it? He was born in 1772, and there is nothing special about it. Everyone is getting a birth and it is a very general thing. हो सकता है कुछ लोगों ने गाना वाना गाया हो, वो लोकल लैंग्वेजेस में शोहर गाते हैं ना, हो सकता है वो हुआ हो, इतना ही खास हुआ होगा. He was an ordinary guy, but it was not very long. He joined British East India Company as a clerk, and when he started serving and he came into the contact of Western modern education, his thought process, his ideas gradually widened. And when his thought process and ideas widened, he started working on a lot of things. And he started exploring his surroundings and just started acknowledging the problems in the society and the religion. When he explored religion, he found one very striking thing, and that is in India there is polygamy. Polygamy simply means a lot of gods and goddesses are worshipped in India. And he just tried to explore the reason. And reason is that people in India have multiple choices and it has a very pristine background, if I say. Because India, when formed, various tribal groups were there. And it is just supposed that when Aryans invaded in India, they just started an expedition, a march towards victory. And when they captured various tribal groups, they started accommodating their gods and goddesses. And when the composite Sanatan Dharma was created, it accommodated all the gods and goddesses of various tribal clans. And that's why we find a lot of gods and goddesses in Hindu religion. And these a lot of gods and goddesses are in the form of incarnation. And when this incarnation come into the picture, it results into the idolatry, dominance of religious scriptures, and the priestly class, and the charms and magics, and a lot of unnecessary rituals. So a lot of problems are there. And what is the origin point of all these problems? The origin point must be the polytheism. If you follow monotheism, it simply means there is one God, and that one God is immutable, almighty, omnipresent, omniscience, unsearchable, and that is the supreme entity. If there is only one God in this way, a lot of problems will get vanish. A lot of problems, those are there in Hindu religion. But you must have a very solid counter argument for this particular statement. Why? Because many religions are there which are following monotheism. Like 3 Abrahamic religions we all know, Judaism, Christianity and Islam. All the 3 religions are Abrahamic religions, and all are having a concept of monotheism. So there isn't any problem in these religions. No, it isn't so. A lot of problems are also there in these religions. Still, if monotheism is being practiced, a lot of problems can be taken over by various social initiatives. So he tried to explore Hindu scriptures and found out that most of the pristine Hindu scriptures talk about one supreme entity, and that is Param Brahma Paramatma, Brahma. You must have heard the line of Ram Dhari Singh Dinkar about Bhagwan Shri Krishna. सब जन मुझी से पाते हैं और लौट मुझी में आते हैं. It means there is one origin point, and everyone who is getting his or her origin, that supreme single entity will ultimately end his or her faith in that single entity only. And what is the indication? Indication is there is only one supreme authority. So he decided to culminate his idea in a book, and that book was published in 1809, and the name of that book was Tuhfatul Muwahhiddin. So the book that was published was Tuhfatul Muwahhiddin. If you will translate that book into the English, it will be A Gift to Monotheist. And if you will translate this book into the Hindi, you'll find the name एकेश्वरवादियों के लिए एक तोहफा. So what will it be? It be एकेश्वरवादियों के लिए एक तोहफा. And what this book was about? He just preached his ideas of monotheism and tried to ascertain the fact that even the Hindu scriptures indicate towards the idea of monotheism. But that was not enough. He was very eager of scientific and logical discussions, and he used to engage in these kind of discussions with his fellows and with his friends. When he was serving in East India Company, he had a lot of friends, and he used to discuss the idea of monotheism with all his friends. So finally he decided, let's make a society where we could sit together with the purpose that we will discuss a bit about the idea of monotheism and various initiatives. So he founded Atmiya Sabha, and that was founded in 1815. You may find a few places the date as 1814. इससे कुछ नहीं होने वाला है, जिंदगी में कोई बड़ा परिवर्तन नहीं होगा. If it is 1815 or 14, it will not bother a lot. Just for sake of understanding, it's 1815. And he founded Atmiya Sabha. What does it mean if it is Atmiya Sabha? Atmiya Sabha, what is this Atmiya? Atmiya is someone whom you are having a soul-to-soul connection. And you will have a soul-to-soul connection with whom? Not with your girlfriend, but with your friends. We just say that this is my friend and I'm very close to him. We have a soul-to-soul connection. In Hindi, we just say कि अरे हमारा इनसे बड़ा आत्मीय संबंध है, आत्मीयता का संबंध है, मतलब हम आत्मा से कनेक्टेड हैं, आत्मीयता का संबंध. तो वो जिसके साथ आपका आत्मीयता का संबंध होता है वो आपका दोस्त होता है. तो इनकी आत्मीय सभा ऐसे लोगों का ग्रुप था जिनके साथ इनका आत्मीयता का संबंध था. And that's why it translates into the English as Atmiya Sabha. And that was founded in 1815. And what was the purpose? Very simple purpose was the discussion over monotheism. It was all going good. We all know there is concept of Orientalism and Anglicanism. Anglicanism says that we must promote English language, while Orientalism says that we must approach or we must promote the Indian languages or the native languages. In that debate, Macaulay is very infamous for promoting English in India. And it is a very sheer surprise for us that Raja Ram Mohan Roy was not an Orientalist. He was an Anglicist. He was the promoter and the supporter of English. So was Raja Ram Mohan Roy and Macaulay same? While Macaulay is very infamous, Raja Ram Mohan Roy is regarded a lot in India. So what is the difference between the Raja Ram Mohan Roy and the Macaulay? While both were Anglicist and the promoter of English language, it's always the intention. And what is the difference that has been catered by the intention? When Macaulay wanted to spread English education in India, he had a very clear intention that there must be people who are Indian in blood and color, but English or British in rest of the spheres. He just wanted a few English educated clerks who could also be converted into the good consumers of British industrial goods. So that was the objective of Macaulay. And what was the objective of Raja Ram Mohan Roy when he started promoting what? English. He had a very clear objective that Indians must be aware about the Western science, Western knowledge, Western philosophy and new ideas which are evolving in Europe. And these ideas can only be accessible through the means of English. And that's why in 1817 he supported David Hare. What he supported David Hare? He supported David Hare to found Hindu College. Hindu College, and in Hindu College we have seen that modern English education, which was scientific as well as philosophy, was taught. So in 1772 he was born. In 1809 he started a book, Tuhfatul Muwahhideen, a gift to monotheists, एक ईश्वरवादियों के लिए एक तोहफा. In 1815 he founded Atmiya Sabha. In 1817 he supported David Hare to found a Hindu school, and that is Hindu College, and that was in Calcutta. It has nothing to do with the Hindu College of Delhi University. In 1818 he started his Sati campaign. And behind the Sati campaign, there is a very sad or the painful story. We must understand that Raja Ram Mohan Roy had two brothers. They were two siblings, exactly same. The Raja Ram Mohan Roy was the younger one. And who was the elder one? Hari Mohan Roy. Hari Mohan Roy was married and he had a wife. So, his sister-in-law, and the wife of his elder brother Hari Mohan Roy. Since he was a kid, so there was a maternal behavior, that their motherly behavior from his sister-in-law. आपने देखा होगा कि अगर देवर कहते हैं ना देश सच लैंग्वेज में, तो देवर अगर भाभी थोड़ी बड़ी हो उम्र में तो वो एक मदरली बिहेवियर दिखाती हैं, मतलब वो पूरा मदर वाला ट्रीटमेंट देंगी उस देवर को, जो छोटा सा बच्चा होता है वो उसको खिलाएंगी पिलाएंगी और उसकी पूरी टेक केयर करेंगी। तो ऐसा ही मदरली बिहेवियर वी हैव सीन कि हरि मोहन रॉय की जो वाइफ थी वो राजा राम मोहन रॉय के लिए रखती थी। सो ही वॉज वेरी क्लोज टू हर, एंड वन डे हरि मोहन रॉय डाइड। When Hari Mohan Roy died, they started preparing for a sati practice, and his sister-in-law was getting prepared, and that is in a bridal get-up for the last time, and she was crying. Although he was a kid, but he was well aware that she was crying because she was aware that she is going to get burned on the pyre. And that fear was in her eyes, that was sensed by Raja Ram Mohan Roy. He started crying. He tried a lot that her sister-in-law should not be burnt on a pyre, but he was too small to stop that sati practice. And his own sister-in-law was burnt on pyre after the death of his elder brother Hari Mohan Roy. And that was the incident that completely shaken Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Sometimes you just feel something that you cannot get rid of, and there was only one way out, and that is to get rid of that institution of sati. He understood that there wasn't any problem with the family or the society who were compelling his sister-in-law to be sati. The problem was there in the institution of sati, and that was in his mind since childhood. When he became little bit influential, he started anti-sati campaign and gathered a lot of like-minded volunteers who could work along with him. So the volunteers had a very simple task. Whenever they get a news that someone has died, specifically in upper caste families where sati was very prevalent, these volunteers instantly visit those houses as well as cremation grounds, and they used to ensure that women are not getting burnt, women are not getting sati. If family is compelling women to get sati, they used to convince them not to do so. Sometimes they also confront with the families, but there was a challenge, and this challenge was very simple. Because most of the people who used to practice sati used to be from the upper caste families, and of course they were influential. If they were influential, they had power and prestige. When these volunteers used to counter them so that their family member, a woman, is not burnt on a pyre, they used to hit or harass or beat these volunteers. Even when volunteers were beaten and they used to seek help from the police used to side with these upper caste people. Police is like, this is their family matter and you need not to intervene. It is as simple as. At this point of time, Raja Ram Mohan Roy realized it cannot be done without a legal backup. Police must side volunteers, and this must be the precondition. Police must side volunteers, and this must be the precondition. So he started an effort to gather British support and to make the practice of sati illegal. His initial efforts were not taken seriously by British government, but he was fortunate enough to get a Governor General who was enlightened and he tried to ensure the welfare of the people. And when Lord William Bentinck arrived, the efforts which were earlier made by Raja Ram Mohan Roy got a final shot. And in 1829, he got the law that he was seeking for. The Bengal Regulation 17. Bengal Regulation 17, which was passed in 1829, finally declared sati as an illegal practice and equivalent to murder. In the very next year, in 1830, the authority and the effect of this regulation was also extended to what? Madras and Bombay. And this is how the practice of sati was abolished from India. And this was a very hard fought battle of 10 years by Raja Ram Mohan Roy and his volunteers, where they were harassed, beaten, humiliated and faced physical violence. Let me tell you one very interesting thing. And what is this? Raja Ram Mohan Roy was very much liked by Christian missionaries. And you may wonder why. Because he used to speak what Christian missionaries wanted to listen to. He was telling that monotheism is the real tenet of the religion. And we all know Christianity is monotheistic religion. He used to tell what kind of problems are there in religion and the society. And this is what Christian missionaries used to do. Although there was intention, which was different. When Raja Ram Mohan Roy was exploring the problems in Hindu religion, he intended to make a reform. While when Christian missionaries used to make such remarks, they just wanted to humiliate the religious practices. And they were used to feel like, अरे ये तो अपना बंदा है, ये तो वही काम कर रहा है जो काम हमें करना चाहिए. But soon they realized कि ये अपना बंदा नहीं है. And what they realized? They simply realized something when a book was published in 1820. And the title of that book was Precept to Jesus. What was this Precept to Jesus? Precept to Jesus was commentary on Bible. You must know that Bible had two testaments, the Old Testament and the New Testament. Old Testament narrates the previous life of Jesus Christ, while New Testament explains the incidents of the life of Jesus Christ. So the Precept to Jesus was the commentary over New Testament and not the Old Testament. It was commentary over New Testament. And what was there? He did a very simple thing. There is a lot of messages which were moral and philosophical, given by whom? Jesus Christ. And he got merit in those messages. But there were also a lot of miraculous stories in Bible. It is like Christ is moving and there was a woman that was suffering from leprosy. She was in pain and then Christ touched her and her leprosy was cured. These kind of stories were also there. So he just segregated the miraculous stories from the philosophical and the moral teachings of Christ. He said that philosophical and moral teachings of Christ are worth understanding and the need for the world, while these miracle stories are worthless. It was unacceptable for Christian missionaries that an Indian person is making a commentary over Bible. And after this book, Precept to Jesus, Christian missionaries became very hostile against Raja Ram Mohan Roy. But he was not the one who is going to stop. He wanted to spread his social and religious ideas throughout the India. And for that purpose, he wanted a newspaper. And then he started Samvad Kaumudi. The publication of Samvad Kaumudi started. The publication of Samvad Kaumudi started when? In 1821. ठीक है. And what was 1821? Samvad Kaumudi, when it was published in 1821, it culminated the ideas of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. And it was a Bengali weekly. It simply means the moon of intelligence. It was a newspaper which used to get published from Kolkata, and it was in Bengali. So it was a newspaper. And it used to get published from Calcutta. And its publication started in 1821. In the very same year, he established Calcutta Unitarian Committee, and this committee was intended to spread his ideas. So in 1821 there was Samvad Kaumudi, and in 1821 itself there was Calcutta Unitarian Committee. In the very next year he started a new Persian weekly, and that was Mirat-ul-Akbar. So in 1821 there was Samvad Kaumudi, in 1822 there was Mirat-ul-Akbar. It was Persian weekly. In 1825 he started Vedant College, which used to give the Vedic knowledge, Indian science, Indian philosophy and Western science. And he also started Bengali primer, and that Bengali primer was in prose style. In 1828 he founded Brahmo Sabha to institutionalize his ideas. In 1829, as I already told you, that Bengal Regulation 17 came into the effect, which illegalized practice of sati. And the twist and turn come when in 1830 Raja Radhakant Deb founded Dharam Sabha. Raja Radhakant Deb, who was a very prominent Jamidar and was always against Raja Ram Mohan Roy. He used to think that Raja Ram Mohan Roy is doing something that is against Hindu religion. He is just intervening in the Hindu cultural practices. He did not want that sati should be abolished. So whenever Raja Ram Mohan Roy used to make effort, he used to write signature campaigns, and write a lot of letters which were packed and were sent to the Viceroy's house or the Governor General's house. Viceroy was not there, to showcase that Indians do not want the practice of sati. तो जब राजा राम मोहन रॉय 10,000 लेटर्स इकट्ठा करके भेजते थे, तो राजा राम मोहन रॉय 50,000 लेटर्स इकट्ठा करके भेज देते थे. राजा राम मोहन रॉय के काउंटर में राधाकांत देव 50,000 लेटर्स इकट्ठा करके भेज देते थे. अभी जब 1830 में पूरे ब्रिटिश इंडिया में सती को इलीगलाइज कर दिया गया, तो बड़ा अच्छा कॉन्फिडेंस आया राजा राम मोहन रॉय को. उन्होंने राधाकांत देव से बोला कि देखा, मैंने बोला था ना अबॉलिश करवा दूंगा, और देखो करवा दिया. ही सेड अभी कहाँ, अभी कोई और है. बोले अब कौन है, अब कोई नहीं है. बोले ब्रिटिश क्वीन, आई विल अप्रोच हर. तब राजा राम मोहन रॉय को लगा कहीं बात बिगड़ ना जाए और ब्रिटिश क्वीन इस पूरे लॉ को अबॉलिश ना कर दें. तो फिर हम देखते हैं कि वो ब्रिटेन को विजिट करते हैं. एंड व्हेन ही विजिटेड ब्रिटेन, when he was about to visit Britain, तो खबर लग गई मुगल बादशाह को. मुगल बादशाह ने राजा राम मोहन रॉय को बुलाया. कहा सुना है क्वीन से मिलने जा रहे हो? बोले हाँ जी. बोले ब्रिटेन में क्वीन से मुलाकात होगी? बोले बिल्कुल होगी. बोले थोड़ा मेरी पेंशन के लिए बात कर लेते. If I have told you someday that I will tell you in this Socio-Religious Reform Movement why Raja Ram Mohan Roy visited Britain. Raja Ram Mohan Roy visited Britain to secure, to preserve the law of sati, and that was the basic purpose of having a meeting with Queen. So he was given title of Raja by Akbar II. He was the Mughal Badshah. That story has already been discussed. So he remained for 3 years in Britain, and finally he died there. So he left India in 1830 and did not return. So we have seen that although he founded Dharam Sabha, that later became next year in 1829, Raja Ram Mohan Roy founded Brahmo Sabha, which became Brahmo Samaj, but he could not get enough time to establish it as an institution. After him, his followers tried to grow it, but it was not very fruitful. We have seen what happened when Raja Ram Mohan Roy died. We'll explore this fact, but before exploring this fact, you need to mention his ideas here. First of all, you need to understand his social ideas. In his social ideas, you need to explore 3 elements: women, education and caste. As far as the issue of women is concerned, he promoted widow remarriage, countered child marriage, discarded parda, and campaigned against sati. For the purpose of education, He promoted modern scientific education, helped David Hare to establish Hindu College, founded Vedant College. As far as caste is concerned, he opposed all sort of caste-based discrimination. Let's come on to the religion. In religion, he preached monotheism, supported Upanishadic teachings. He countered idolatry, polytheism, incarnation, and unnecessary rituals. So all these things were discarded by him. In politics, he supported freedom of press. He supported that there must be more and more Indians in superior services. There must be separation of executive from judiciary. There must be trial by jury. And there should be equality between the European judges and Indian judges. And what was the discrimination here? European judges could hear the cases of both Indians and Europeans, while Indian judges could not hear the cases of Europeans. They could only hear the cases of Indians. So that was the discriminatory practice here. What were his thoughts in economy? In economy, he opposed oppression of peasants by Bengali jamidars. He did not like that Bengali jamidars are oppressing. He said that maximum rent for peasants must be fixed, and after a certain limit, rent must not be extracted. Rent must not be extracted. There must be reduction of duties on Indian export, because Britishers were framing economic policies in a way that Indian merchandise should not be sold in Europe or in Britain, so that they could capture Indian trade. He advocated that the trading rights of EIC must be abolished. Other companies must also come to India, and it had a very simple background. If other companies will also come into India, they will compete, and Britishers की opposition में Indians could get better opportunities. He is also considered as an internationalist. Why is he considered as an internationalist? On various fronts. He always advocated brotherhood among the nations, adopted the universal nature of principle of equality, supported a revolution in Naples and Spanish America, and criticized absentee landlordism in Ireland. So these kind of thoughts were proposed by Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Now we need to explore what happened when he died. When he died, the story began when he died in 1833. In 1839, Debendranath Tagore founded Tattvabodhini Sabha. He soon realized that Brahmo Samaj is declining. With this thought, in 1842, he joined Brahmo Samaj. And he had two very clear intentions. Point number one, to preserve or revive the ideas of Raja Ram Mohan Roy, and secondly, to secure Hindus from Christian missionaries, to oppose activities of Christian missionaries. He soon realized that Tattvabodhini Sabha and Tattvabodhini Patrika cannot be simultaneously run. So he ultimately in 1843 merged Tattvabodhini Sabha into Brahmo Samaj. He worked a lot, roughly 12-13 years. There was contribution of Debendranath Tagore in Brahmo Samaj, and because of his initiatives and efforts, Brahmo Samaj started doing well. But he was aging and wanted a new blood, a young generation to lead this Samaj. And surprisingly, he got a very young mind. And what was his name? His name was Kesab Chandra Sen. He joined Brahmo Samaj in 1857. He was very full of zeal and enthusiasm, and he wanted to expand Brahmo Samaj outside of Bengal. Because of his energy and enthusiasm, Debendranath Tagore made him Acharya the very next year, in 1858. For the next 7 years, Kesab Chandra Sen worked hard for the ideas and the growth of Brahmo Samaj. But in 1865 there was dispute between the both. And what was the ground of that dispute? The ground of dispute were various points. Point number one, Keshav Chandra Sen was highly inclined towards Christianity, and that was a cause of concern for Debendranath Tagore. Debendranath Tagore कहते थे कि मेरे को तो ये लग रहा है कि ये ईसाई बन ही जाएगा. He will be Christian one day. Secondly, he wanted a cosmopolitan character of Samaj. He wanted to accommodate the good elements of all the religions in the ideas of Brahmo Samaj. Debendranath Tagore was not in the favor. Debendranath Tagore was always a person who wanted to secure Brahmo Samaj from the activities of Christian missionaries. Thirdly, he wanted Samaj to opt an all India character. He wanted Samaj and its branches and offices spread throughout the India. And fourthly, he started supporting intercaste marriages. He believed that intercaste marriages can reduce the penis of caste-based discrimination very drastically. His ideas were very radical. Debendranath Tagore said that society is not yet ready for intercaste marriages. And I'm just asking you a very simple question. It is roughly, you may consider 175 years. Or just for the sake of basic understanding, 150 years. After 150 years, is India ready for intercaste marriages? And the answer is very obvious, not yet. And Keshav Chandra Sen was promoting this idea back in 1860s. So it was obviously opposed. There is friction between the Debendranath Tagore and the Keshav Chandra Sen. Debendranath Tagore said, ये सब नहीं चलेगा. Keshav Chandra Sen said, अभी तो यही चलेगा. उन्होंने कहा, जैसे आए हो वैसे ही चले जाओ. केशव चंद्र सेन ने कहा, हलवा है क्या? उन्होंने कहा, निकाल के फेंक दूंगा. उन्होंने कहा, फेंक के दिखाओ. 1865 में देवेंद्रनाथ टैगोर ने केशव चंद्र सेन को एक्सपेल कर दिया. And the designation of Acharya was snatched from him. But till then, he had a lot of following base. And many of the younger generation of Brahmo Samaj believed that Keshav Chandra Sen is in right direction. Let me tell you, he opted Christianity later on. In 1866, he opened a new branch of Brahmo Samaj. As he was planning that Brahmo Samaj must be in throughout the India, he named this Samaj in the same manner, and that was Brahmo Samaj of India. Then there was confusion among people, which one is the real? Which one is the real one? The one led by Keshav Chandra Sen or the one led by Debendranath Tagore? To be specific and not to cause confusion, Debendranath Tagore added a keyword from his own Samaj, and that was Adi Brahmo Samaj. Adi simply means pristine, the original one, so that people could be easily aware that this is the original one, Adi Brahmo Samaj. This division went forward. Then there was a rift in 1878. Keshav Chandra Sen was the person who always opposed child marriage until he got a very lucrative offer of Raja of Cooch Behar. Cooch Behar is a very small principality or the princely state in West Bengal, in today's West Bengal. They had a Maharaja of 15 years, and their family members approached Keshav Chandra Sen and requested him to marry her 13-year-old daughter to the Raja of Cooch Behar. This was something against his principles. He always fought for the rights of young children, specifically girls, and opposed child marriage. Now there was an offer of a Maharaja, जहां उनकी बेटी एक महारानी बन जाएंगी. Why a father will not be thinking that her daughter must be a queen? उन्हें रातों की नींदें नहीं आई. And finally he decided that he will marry her 13-year-old daughter to the 15-year-old Maharaja of Cooch Behar. And this marriage was organized. और तब ब्रह्मो समाज ऑफ इंडिया के सारे मेंबर्स ने एक साथ एक स्वर में कहा कि हिपोक्रेसी की भी सीमा होती है। And many of the members parted away. They started saying कि भाई अभी तो आपका जो समाज है वो रॉयल ब्रह्मो समाज हो गया, हमारा तो अभी भी साधारण है। तो हमने देखा कि 1778 में ब्रह्मो समाज ऑफ इंडिया की एक नई विंग इमर्ज हुई एंड दैट वाज साधारण ब्रह्मो समाज। इन साधारण ब्रह्मो समाज देयर वर 3 people, उमेश चंद्र दत्ता, शिव चंद्र देव एंड आनंद मोहन बोस। सो आनंद मोहन बोस, शिव चंद्र देव एंड उमेश चंद्र दत्त, 3 people वर देयर, जिन्होंने मिलकर अलग से ब्रह्मो समाज ऑफ इंडिया फाउंड कर लिया। एंड दिस वे this chapter of Raja Ram Mohan Roy is closed here. I hope you understood this topic of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. If you understood this topic, we must proceed to the next topic, that too in Bengal, and that is Young Bengal movement. We have seen that in 1820s and 30s, there was a radical intellectual movement that was growing in Bengal. And this radical and intellectual movement was led by a very young Anglo-Indian person named Henry Vivian Desrosiers. Henry Vivian Desrosiers was leading this movement. In 1826, he must be just 17 years old. In 1826, when he was just 17 years old, he became the teacher of Hindu College in Calcutta, the same established by David Hare and Raja Ram Mohan Roy. And he was a teacher of what? History, as well as English. His ideas were very fierce and revolutionary, which used to attract students. He used to preach students to read The Rights of Man, a very prominent book of Thomas Paine, where Thomas Paine used to argue that each and every individual have certain unalienable rights that cannot be snatched away in any case. And these ideas were very attractive to the people. His followers used to call them as Desrosiers. They used to call themselves as Desrosiers. He demanded change in social and political structure. Because of his radical ideas, in just 4 years, he was appointed in 1826 and removed in 1831. He was expelled from Hindu College from his radical ideas. And in 1833, he died of cholera. So he had a very small life. He died of cholera. But his ideas were very burning. So if you need to explore his ideas, you'll find he used to ask that question all the authorities. Question all the authorities. He supported the ideals of American and French Revolution, and he was very much aligned with the ideas of Raja Ram Mohan Roy, specifically his political and economic ideas. So you can write the same as jury by trial and the separation of executive from the judiciary, and the peasants fixation of rent for the peasants and abolition of the rights of EIC. These were the same demands raised by Desrosiers as well. But they finally failed. The very simple question is, why did they fail? And why they could not get a very broad success? Point number 1, social conditions were not favorable to the Desrosiers and their radical ideas. Secondly, their radical ideas were not practical. Radical means catering sudden changes, but those ideas can also be practical. First of all, social conditions were not favorable for them. Secondly, their ideas were highly bookish in nature, non-practical. Thirdly, they could not create a very strong social base. They raised a bit about the cause of peasants, but those were not very wide. And thirdly, they had a very sound chance that they could raise the issue of Bengali peasants, but they missed that. ठीक है, उन्होंने बंगाली peasants का मुद्दा उठाया ही नहीं, तो वो कभी masses से connect हुए ही नहीं. And if you're not connected to masses, you cannot survive for longer period of time. It is very obvious. So this also became a cause of concern. Now we must focus over Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, that too in Bengal. Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. When we are focusing in over Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, we must understand he was a deep humanist and he had a great concern for moral values. He was a deep humanist and he had high concern or high moral values. he accepted both Indian and scientific education. His ideas can be segregated on two fragments: his ideas about women, his ideas about education. So what were his ideas about women and what were his ideas about education? First of all, we need to understand his ideas about women. So he had two basic contributions. As we just credit that Sati was abolished by Raja Ram Mohan Roy with his efforts. If you are specifically being asked who abolished Sati, the answer will be Bintik and not the Raja Ram Mohan Roy, because Raja Ram Mohan Roy is not the authority to abolish something. He is just a social reformer. He can encourage, he can cater influence, but he can obviously not abolish. So, because of his efforts, he worked a lot. He started movement for widow remarriage. And because of his efforts, finally Widow Remarriage Act was passed. This Widow Remarriage Act, which was passed, was drafted by Dalhousie but passed by Canning. He made other efforts like efforts to oppose child marriage and the dowry and the polygamy. He opposed all these practices which were derogatory to women as well. He had a very specific contribution over education, where UPSC has already asked a few questions. He became principal of Sanskrit College, and when he became principal of Sanskrit College, he took it as an opportunity and made very significant reforms. When he became principal of Sanskrit College in 1850, he opened Sanskrit College for non-Brahmins. He just said that non-Brahmins can also join this college, and for that purpose he was opposed a lot. Even he was threatened and attacked that how non-Brahmins can study Sanskrit. For many of the people, non-Brahmins could not be allowed to study Sanskrit. So he was opposed. In this way, he opposed or breached the priestly monopoly over Sanskrit. Usually the upper caste Brahmins used to think that Sanskrit is under their ownership. They own Sanskrit. They were thinking in this way. At the same time, first of all, he opened Sanskrit for all the non-Brahmins when he became in 1850 principal of Sanskrit College. So he became principal of Sanskrit College. What did he do first? First of all, Sanskrit College was open for all the non-Brahmins. Point number two, he abolished priestly monopoly and removed self-imposed isolation over Sanskrit. Fourthly, he introduced Western education in Sanskrit College and prepared a new Bengali primer in prose style. So you may see he is doing 5 initiatives. He took 5 initiatives in general when he joined Sanskrit College. Point number 1, Sanskrit College for non-Brahmins. Secondly, opposed priestly monopoly. Thirdly, removed self-imposed isolation. Fourthly, modern Western education was spread in Sanskrit College. And at the fifth point, he also prepared a Bengali primer. And primer was for primary students or the little kids. It is still used in Bengal where primer is taught. This is prepared by Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. The second point, he became inspector of government schools, where he had responsibility to check whether these schools are functioning well or not. When he became principal of Sanskrit College, he took 5 strong initiatives. And when he was declared as inspector of government schools, he opened 35 girls' schools on his own expenditure. Later on, he became secretary of Bethune College. Bethune College was established by J.E.D. Bethune in 1849 onwards. And here he improved higher education for women. So he assumed 3 strong positions for what? For the purpose of education. First of all, he became principal of Sanskrit College, where he took 5 initiatives. Initiative number 1, opened Sanskrit College for non-Brahmins. Secondly, removed opposed Brahmin supremacy, revoked self-isolation. Fourthly, Sanskrit college was incorporated in Western education. And fifthly, बंगाली प्राइमर वॉज इंट्रोड्यूस्ड। दूसरी पोजीशन को क्या मिल रही है, वो इंस्पेक्टर बनते हैं गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स के, और जब वो इंस्पेक्टर बनते हैं गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स के तो वहां पर वो 35 गर्ल्स स्कूल्स अपने खर्चे पर खोलते हैं। एंड थर्डली, वो सेक्रेटरी बनते हैं बेथुनी स्कूल के, तो वहां पर वो हायर एजुकेशन को इंप्रूव करते हैं। सो दीज वर द इनिशिएटिव्स टेकन बाय ईश्वर चंद्र विद्यासागर। सो द चैप्टर ऑफ बंगाल इज क्लोज्ड हियर। आफ्टर बंगाल we'll move towards the Bombay. So Bengal is over here. Let's move towards the Bombay. जब हम बॉम्बे में जाते हैं तो पहला चैप्टर आता है, टॉपिक है मेन सोशियो रिलीजियस रिफॉर्म मूवमेंट, सब टॉपिक है हिंदू, उसमें हम कवर कर रहे हैं। बॉम्बे खत्म हो गया बंगाल, और बंगाल में हम आ गए हैं प्रार्थना समाज। प्रार्थना समाज की शुरुआत होती है 1844 से। 1844 में मानव धर्म सभा फाउंड की जाती है, और 1844 में जब मानव धर्म सभा फाउंड की जाती है तो इसका मामला था सोशियो रिलीजियस रिफॉर्म्स करने का। और सोशियो रिलीजियस रिफॉर्म्स ये जो कर रहे थे ये काइंड ऑफ सीक्रेट सोसाइटी की तरह काम करता था। 1849 में मानव धर्म सभा में से 2 लोग निकले और उन्होंने परमहंस मंडली बनाई 1849 में। सो दीज वर द मेंबर्स ऑफ मानव धर्म सभा हु वर आल्सो इंस्पायर्ड फ्रॉम दैट इंस्टीट्यूशन। And these 2 people were whom? First of all, Dadoba Pandurang, and secondly, Durgaram Mehtaji. So, Dadoba Pandurang and Durgaram Mehtaji, ये 2 लोग आते हैं, डीपी और डीएम। डीपी ददोबा पांडुरंग एंड डीएम दुर्गाराम मेहताजी, ये लोग मिलकर बनाते हैं क्या, परमहंस मंडली। अब इनका परमहंस मंडली वॉज वर्किंग वेल। इन बिटवीन, the younger brother of Dadoba Pandurang wanted to open his own institution, and he met with Kesab Chandra Sen. Kesab Chandra Sen opened Brahmo Samaj of India in 1866. So after a year I will say, in 1867, with the help of Kesab Chandra Sen, she opened Prarthana Samaj. ऑल्दो केशव चंद्र सेन वांटेड कि हाँ वो ब्रह्मो समाज ऑफ इंडिया की एक ब्रांच खोल ले, बट ही चूज टू ओपन एंड अ सेपरेट एंड इंडिपेंडेंट इंस्टीट्यूशन। बोले भैया डांटेंगे, तो उन्होंने क्या ओपन किया, प्रार्थना समाज। प्रार्थना समाज का जो फंडामेंटल प्रिंसिपल था वो तो देखो ब्रह्मो समाज का ही था, और केशव चंद्र सेन से खुला। मजा तो तब आया जब 4 साल बाद इसमें जुड़े कुछ महारथी, और उसके बाद प्रार्थना समाज को मिली पीक, और जब इसमें जुड़े कुछ महान लोग, और महान मतलब कौन, महादेव, और महादेव मतलब कौन, महादेव गोविंद रानाडे। अब देखो महादेव गोविंद रानाडे का नाम कितना खास है। महादेव भगवान श्री कृष्ण, गोविंद महादेव भगवान शिव, गोविंद भगवान श्री कृष्ण, और रानाडे मतलब ये कृष्ण भी हैं और शिव भी हैं। महादेव गोविंद रानाडे, कितने महान आदमी होंगे ये। खैर ये तो केवल नाम याद करने के लिए है। टू बी स्पेसिफिक, ही हैड ए वेरी इन्फ्लुएंशियल बेस एज फार इन विद द पर्पज ऑफ सोशल रिफॉर्मर। ही हैड ए वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग बेस, Mahadev Govind Ranade. When he joined in 1870, then Pratna Samaj became very popular, and under his influence a few more people joined, जैसे R.G. भंडारकर and N.G. चंदावरकर। तो R.G. भंडारकर और N.G. चंदावरकर भी इनको ज्वाइन कर लेते हैं, और उसके बाद ये काफ़ी स्पीडली ग्रो करने लग जाता है। अगर आप इसके आइडियाज़ को देखो तो इसके आइडियाज़ कुछ तो सिमिलर होंगे ब्रह्मो समाज के ना। और ब्रह्मो समाज का सबसे कोर आइडिया क्या है? द वेरी कोर आइडिया ऑफ ब्रह्मो समाज इज मोनोथिज्म। सो दे आर फॉलोइंग मोनोथिज्म, दे आर फॉलोइंग मोनोथिज्म। अपार्ट फ्रॉम मोनोथिज्म हम देखते हैं कि ये सोशल रिफॉर्म पर ज़्यादा कंसर्न है कंपैरिजन टू रिलीजियस रिफॉर्म। एंड वाई? बिकॉज दे डू नॉट वांट टू काउंटर हिंदू ऑर्थोडॉक्सी डायरेक्टली। Thirdly, हम देखते हैं they were connected to Bhakti cult of Maharashtra. In many of the saints and philosophers were very active from the Bhakti movement, so they were very much active there. And they used persuasion and education to make social reform and not a direct confrontation. So what they were doing, if you are expressing their ideas, first of all, they were preaching monotheism, and they will preach monotheism because their ideas are very similar to the ideas of Brahmo Samaj. Secondly, they are not much concentrated over the religious reform, rather they are focusing on social reform. Thirdly, they are connected with the Bhakti cult of Maharashtra. And fourthly, they used persuasion and education and not direct confrontation. They had 4 areas, 4-point agenda. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, विमेन को एजुकेट करेंगे, विमेन को एजुकेट करेंगे. सेकेंडली, कास्ट सिस्टम को अबॉलिश करेंगे. विमेन से रिलेटेड इनके 2 इश्यूज हैं. जब आप इनके इश्यूज देखेंगे तो इनके 3 इश्यूज तो विमेन से रिलेटेड ही हैं. एक तो विमेन की एजुकेशन, दूसरा विडो मैरिज, और तीसरा कि बोथ मेन और विमेन की मैरिज की एज को इंक्रीज करना. ठीक है, तो एक तो वो कास्ट सिस्टम को लेकर हिट करते हैं कि कास्ट बेस्ड डिस्क्रिमिनेशन को रिड्यूस करना है हमने, दूसरा कि वुमेन को एजुकेट करना है हमने, और तीसरा विमेन विडोज की रिमैरिज करनी है, और नॉर्मली मेन और विमेन दोनों की मैरिज की एज को इंक्रीज करना है. तो प्रार्थना समाज इन फ्रंट्स पर काम करने लगी. इट स्टार्टेड वर्किंग ऑन दीज फ्रंट्स. अब देखो, अब जब आपने ये बॉम्बे शुरू कर दिया है तो बॉम्बे में दूसरा स्ट्रॉन्ग इनिशिएटिव बनता है सत्यशोधक समाज. सत्यशोधक समाज की अगर आप मीनिंग समझो, समथिंग दैट इज फोकसिंग ऑन रिसर्च ओवर सत्य, रिसर्च ओवर ट्रुथ, सत्य शोधक समाज. जब आप सत्य शोधक समाज पर जाते हैं, व्हाट डू यू फाइंड, व्हाट डू यू फाइंड हियर? ज्योतिबा फुले इसकी शुरुआत करते हैं 1873 में, सत्यशोधक समाज की. ज्योतिबा फुले एक माली फैमिली से बिलोंग करते थे. ही स्टार्टेड सत्यशोधक समाज इन 1873. दैट वाज ट्रुथ सीकर्स सोसाइटी. In 1873, when he started Satyasodhak Samaj, it had a very simple meaning. It had a very simple meaning, that is something that is exploring truth, which is exploring truth. सत्य पर शोध करने वाला सत्यशोधक समाज. He was belonging to Mali family. फूले, फूल मतलब माली. Thirdly, he was opposing caste-based discrimination and Brahmanical supremacy. And he raised the issue of untouchability. He is credited to coin the term Dalit. He is credited to coin the term Dalit, which means broken. इनके वर्क्स में सार्वजनिक सत्यधर्म और गुलामगिरी आता है. इनको 1888 में महात्मा का टाइटल दिया था किसी ने, जिनका नाम था विट्ठल राव कृष्णजी वांडेकर. विट्ठल राव कृष्णजी वांडेकर. He had 2 aims, education and social service. Education में education to 2 segments, women and the lower caste people. He urged people to worship Raja Bali at the place of Raja Ram, who is considered as the god of Kshatriyas. Raja Bali was a demon king who conquered earth and the heaven and snatched heaven from Swargalok from Indra. It is said that the empire of Raja Bali was very equitable. Everyone was happy and no one was discriminated. He ensured welfare of all and social equality. Despite being a demon king, he had a lot of merits. And to overthrow him on the request of gods, Bhagwan Shri Krishna took Vaman avatar, a very small Brahmin, who went to Raja Bali when he was after a yajna, was distributing alms. Vamanavatar Bhagwan Vishnu went to him and asked 3 steps of land, 3 pag jameen. His guru was Sukracharya. He instantly recognized Bhagwan Vishnu and asked Raja Bali not to give him alm. But he said that I am giving alm to each and every Brahmin. Even if he is Bhagwan Vishnu, if he is in an attire of a small Brahmin and asking me an alm, I will give. Okay, you just take. बोले ये तुम्हारा पूरा एम्पायर ले लेंगे 3 पग में। बोले दैट्स ओके, इफ ही वांट ही कैन टेक, नाउ आई एम हियर टू गिव, टेक वॉट एवर यू वांट फ्रॉम मी। एंड ही गिव 3 पग जमीन, 3 स्टेप ऑफ लैंड टू वामनावतार भगवान विष्णु। एंड देन वामनावतार भगवान विष्णु measured entire earth in his first step and the heaven in the second step, and then he raised his third step and asked Raja Bali, where should I keep it? Then Raja Bali said, just keep it on my head, because I am the only one now remain to me. Then he put his third step over the head of Raja Bali. Then there are various narratives. It is said that after that, Raja Bali was made the king of the Patal Lok. And some people say that, various other narratives say that Raja Bali was given a place in Vaikuntha Lok that has a designation far superior than Swarg or heaven, because he promised something and completed that. So in this way, it was the scenario that whether, although he was a demon king, but he maintained an equitable society, and that's why the list must worship Raja Bali and not Raja Ram. With the other perspective, that was the scenario here. So we have understood Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, and we are understanding Satyasodhak Samaj. We are understanding Satyasodhak Samaj. We have covered Prarthana Samaj, and we are understanding Satyasodhak Samaj. We can see that he founded Satyasodhak Samaj in 1873 to uplift the lower segment of society, which included Mali, Teli, Kunbi, Saris and Dhangars. He introduced the term Dalit, and his writings were Sarvajanik Satyadharma and Gulamgiri. He was awarded the title of Mahatma for his noble cause by a social reformer of Maharashtra. He was a Vittal Rao Krishnaji Wandekar, and this is the fact I already explained to you. Now, his 2 aims were there. If I'm talking about his ideas, he wanted complete abolition of caste system. He wanted complete abolition of caste system and socio-economic equality. He was against Sanskritic Hinduism and used symbol of Raja Bali. He was the pioneer of widow remarriage movement in Maharashtra, and for that purpose he opened widow home in 1854. He was firm believer of gender equality, and he was also pioneer of women's education along with his wife Savitri Bai Phule. And for that purpose, he opened a native female school in Pune in 1863, and Society for Promoting Education of Mahar, Mangs and others. So these were his initiative that we were talking about. Let's talk a bit about his wife Savitri Bai Phule. Savitri Bai Phule is considered as first prominent women social reformer in India. She started Mahila Seva Mandal, and Mahila Seva Mandal was an organization to raise awareness about women's rights. He campaigned against dehumanization of widows and advocated widow remarriage. She successfully organized a barber strike. She was belonging to Mali family, and the Mali community urged to the Nai family or the barbers families or the barbers community that you will not shave heads of the widows. That was a very common customary practice. When a woman was widow, her head must be shaved, and that was very dehumanizing practice. So simply, barbers said that they will not shave heads of women. If any family is compelling them to do so, they will not provide any service to their family members. She, along with Jyotiba Phule, established Bala Hatya Pratibandhak Grih to prevent infanticide, and that was also found in 1863. So you can see that in 1863 there was native female school पुणे में नेटिव फीमेल स्कूल भी आ रहा है, और इसी साल आप देखो तो बाल हत्या प्रतिबंधक गृह भी आ रहा है. Women who were widows were sexually exploited in society, and sometimes they get pregnant. In that scenario, they used to have just one choice, and that is to commit suicide. They used to die. There was a woman who was going to commit suicide because she was pregnant and had a child, and she was bearing a child. She was saved by Savitribai Phule, and she sheltered her in widow's home. When she gave birth to a child, Savitribai Phule adopted that child, and later that child became a very good doctor. When there was plague in the Bombay region in 1896 and 97, that doctor saved lives of a lot of people, and that was the same plague in which Savitribai Phule died while serving people. She used to write beautiful poetries, and she had a lot of very good and fine collections over poetries like Kavya Phule, Bavan Kashi Subodh Ratnakar, and after the death of Jyotiba Phule, she took care of the Satyashodhak Samaj, and that was her contribution. Now we need to focus on a few personalities. You can see we have covered Bengal, where we have covered Brahmo Samaj, Young Bengal movement, and Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. We are discussing Bombay. In Bombay, we have covered Pratna Samaj and Satyashodhak Samaj. And now we will cover a few personalities like Balashastri Jambekar, Gopal Hari Deshmukh, Gopal Ganesh Agarkar, and Gopal Krishna Gokhale, and his disciple Narayan Malhar Joshi. In South India, we'll cover Kerala, and that will be SNDP movement and temple entry movement. And in Madras, we'll cover justice movement and self-respect movement. In All India level, we'll cover Arya Samaj, Ramakrishna Mission, and Theosophical Society. So these topics will be covered. Let's have a quick look over these personalities without taking a lot of time over these topics. We are talking about Balashastri Jambekar. He was a social reformer and he's pioneer of journalism in Bombay. He is known as father of Marathi journalism. He always attacked Brahminical orthodoxy and spread his ideas through a newspaper called Darpan, and it was started in 1832. He used Darpan to spread his scientific ideas to support widow marriage. In 1840, he started a periodical, and that was Digdarshan, where he used to publish articles over scientific subjects and the history. He founded Bombay Native General Library and started the Native Improvement Society. He was the first professor of Hindi at the Elphinstone College, and he was director of Colaba Observatory as well. Now, we're going to talk about Lok-Hitwadi or Gopal Hari Deshmukh. He was a social reformer, rationalist. He was also from Maharashtra. He was a judge in British government. That's why he used to write his articles on a pen name, and that was Lok-Hitwadi. He used to write in weekly Prabhakar, and he was not able to use his own name because he was in government services. So the title that was used by him, or the pen name that was used by him, was Lok-Hitwadi. He organized Indian society. He wanted to reorganize Indian society on rational basis. He used to attack Hindu orthodoxy, and he had a very striking statement. And I want you to remember this statement. I just want you to remember this statement. And this is very striking statement. And what was that? If religion does not sanction social reform, then change religion. It was just a threat to the keeper of Hindu religion that if you will not make significant changes in the religion, people will convert. He started a weekly 𝐂𝐇𝐀 and played a very leading role in founding of periodicals like Jnana Prakash, Hindu Prakash, and Lok-Hitwadi. So he also founded these kind of periodicals over there. Let's talk about Gopal Ganesh Agarkar. Gopal Ganesh Agarkar was educationist and social reformer from Maharashtra. He was a very strong advocate of human reason and criticized the blind dependence on tradition and false glorification of past. He was co-founder of New English School and Deccan Education Society and the Ferguson College. He was also principal of Ferguson College. He was the first editor of Kesari, a journal published by Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Later he started his own periodical, and that was Sudharak, where he used to talk about the untouchability and the caste system. Then there is Gopal Krishna Gokhale. He was a very liberal leader and he founded Servant of India Society. With the help of Servant of India Society, he wanted to prepare and train national missionaries who are ready to fight with the constitutional means, and they must be selfless workers. He had a lot of supporters like M.C. Setal with B.N. Rao and Radha Krishna Swami Iyer. He always advocated that this society must not involve in politics, rather it should stay aloof from the political discussions and debates. After his death, Srinivas Sastry led this organization. Then there was a Social Service League. Social Service League was led by Narayan Malhara Joshi, and he was just a follower of Gokhale. He just wanted people to secure better and reasonable condition of living. So his focus was mainly over social works, like he organized a lot of schools, libraries, reading rooms, nurseries and cooperative societies. In his activities, he used to support people and assist them to access police and court and the judiciary who were poor and illiterate. He was also one among the founders of All India Trade Union Congress in 1920. And that was 𝐼𝐇𝐄𝐒. That was 𝐼𝐇𝐄𝐒. Now, Hindu reform movement is done here. Not done. North India में जो पूरा बंगाल का मामला था और बॉम्बे का मामला था, that we have covered. And after that, we should move towards the southern India. In southern India, we are going to cover SNDP movement, justice movement, self-respect movement and the temple entry movement. In SNDP movement was in Kerala and temple entry movement was in Kerala. Justice movement and the self-respect movement was in Madras. So 4 movements and 2 locations. Just keep a track on these locations. First of all, we need to discuss Sri Narayan Guru Dharma Paripalan movement. If we are exploring Sri Narayan Guru Dharma Paripalan movement, we must understand that Sri Narayan Guru was a person from 𝐬𝑗hava community. And you will be surprised to know that 𝐬𝑗hava community was one of the largest community in Kerala. They had 26% population there, and surprisingly they were untouchables. It is like 1/4 of the population of a state is untouchable. They were the largest grabbing population and they were untouchables. They had a profession of toddy tapping. They were not allowed to enter into the temples and they were also denied education. So he was belonging to 𝐬𝑗hava caste, and he started advocating that 𝐬𝑗hava should leave the practice of toddy tapping, because toddy is tadi, that is some sort of liquor that is grabbed from the palm tree, a liquid from the palm tree. So since 𝐬𝑗havas were not allowed to enter into the temples, they were considered as untouchables. Sri Narayan Guru made a very new innovation. What did he do? उन्होंने नेयार रिवर से एक पत्थर निकाला. We have seen that in the rivers stones are usually very refined because of the flow of the water, and you may assume these stones had shivling. So he picked a stone from the Neyar river and installed a shivling in Aruvipuram, and that too on the day of Shivratri in 1888. His movement got a pace when a very prominent poet, Kumaran Asan, joined him. The joining of Kumaran Asan to the SNDP movement was similar to the joining of Kumar Vishwas to the Aam Aadmi Party or the Arvind Kejriwal. That's a very different scenario. फिर उन्होंने डिसाइड किया कि हमें अपने आइडियाज को इंस्टीट्यूशनलाइज करना चाहिए, एंड फॉर दैट पर्पस दे रजिस्टर्ड their institution in the form of Yogam to the Companies Act. So this movement was institutionalized as an institution as Yogam. So this became SNDP Yogam, Sri Narayan Guru Dharma Paripalana Yogam. But it became Sri Narayan Guru Dharma Paripalana Yogam, SNDP. So permanent chairman was Sri Narayan Guru and Kumaran Asan became the secretary. They raised 4 issues: the admission of Ijhavas in public schools, their recruitment in government services, access to temples, and their political representation. Then Justice Movement. It was started in Madras by C.N. Mudaliar and T.M. Nayyar, along with P. Tyagaraja. Because of their efforts, in 1917, Madras Presidency Association was also formed. Then there was Self-Respect Movement in Madras. It was started by E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar. We popularly know him with the name of Periyar. He was assisted by A. Balija Naidu, and it was in mid-1920s. They rejected Brahmanical religion and advocated marriages without the help of Brahmin priest. Then there was Temple Entry Movement. Temple Entry Movement was also in Kerala, and the base was already prepared by Sri Narayan Guru and Kumaran Asan. Then there was T.K. Madhavan. He was a very prominent social reformer, and he petitioned the king of Travancore that the public temples must be opened for all. Then there was a very strong movement in Vacom, and Vacom is where? In northern part of Travancore, where they were marching towards the temples, peacefully protesting that we also need to open in the temple gates must be open for the Dalits as well. And the upper caste people and their lathats used to come before the temples. No, you will not be allowed to enter. And they were peacefully protesting that we want to enter in these temples. In 1924, Vacom Satyagraha was led by K.P. Keshav. Then they were supported by Jathas from Punjab and Madras. Mahatma Gandhi also supported this movement and take a tour to Kerala. When there was a beginning of a civil disobedience movement, so this movement was accommodated in that larger movement. But when civil disobedience movement ended, it regained its space. Finally, in 1936, Maharaja of Travancore opened all the public temples to all the people, including Dalits. And this similar step was taken by the C. Rajagopalachari government after 2 years in 1938. When Congress made provincial governments, they also opened all the public temples to all the peoples. So this was the part here that we explored, that we understood here. So in this part, we have covered the 3 segments